responding to questions while on his way to the
because it's
helipad, because I can
Twitter.
see a number of media representatives who were initially prevented. They were told that they will only be allowed after the remains were brought in. So they are now interviewing the Minister of Information, and that is Alhaji Muhammad Idris. Told that the delay in the arrival of the remains of the late former president, which was earlier scheduled to be around 1 o'clock, and the prayer was to take place around by 2 p.m. It is about 6-hour journey between the European nation and Nigeria. But here we are. Already his remains have been received at the airport by President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which was conveyed by the Vice Hashim Shetima alongside the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Bajabiamila. Alongside the remains, the family members and the federal government delegation drafted to London by President Bola Tinubu. There was a military parade, which is a tradition for any senior military personnel and a former commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And of course, definitely being a national state funeral to be led by the nation's commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Moment, a large crowd, everybody here is calm, mourning a great loss of a person who Nigerians and people across the world use and still using various beautiful adjectives to describe his life as an individual, as a leader, and as a citizen. At any moment from now, since you may wish to know that the distance between the Daura and Kasana is about 72 kilometers, which is about an hour drive between. But due to the nature of the trip and the large convoys of vehicles, so it may take longer time, because from the time the remains left the airport is more than an hour now, and that the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport is just very close to the Katsina Daura highway, so it's really not too far, or not very not short as well, but delayed by the crowd and the long motorcade conveying the remains, and of course the president and other dignitaries who are coming to take part in the funeral rites, which will be the final, the last aspects of this state funeral for the former leader Muhammadu Buhari, and after the prayers he'll be laid to rest inside his residence here in Daura, Katsina State.
All right, live pictures from Daura now as the dignitaries who earlier arrived at the Muhammadu Buhari International Airport in Katsina now arrived Daura for the final funeral rites for the former president, late President Muhammadu Buhari. We're seeing different ministers and past administrators in the country thronging the venue. We'll be looking at, I will be, of course, mentioning some of them as we see them. Earlier we cited, of course, the Minister of Information ushering others into the venue. And our correspondent said the prayers will be offered around the helipad, but it seems as if there have been some changes to accommodate the crowd, as we can see in these shots. Like we earlier discussed, it seems as if the entire town of Daura has emptied to the compound of the former president to be a part of this event. And we can see there, of course, so many visitors to Daura today, a lot of leaders from the north, many of the eminent emirs already there, spiritual leaders, former administrators, talking about state governors, military administrators, current governors as well. And this has cut a cross-party divide. We have seen the acting national chairman of the People's Democratic Party seated, even perhaps what looks like the sitting room there of the former president, talking about Umar Dramagu, former governor Bello Masiri, and since so many of them there, of course, Chief of Army Staff there, Chief of Defense Staff arrived earlier as well, in company of other senior military officers, including most of the defense chiefs, all in attendance. And we're still seeing the arrival of more and more members of the diplomatic corps there. And in the background, you're seeing people, citizens and indigents of Daura and, of course, Katsina at large. So this has been how it has played out since the news of his passing, reached Nigeria on Sunday. There has been an outpouring of, solidarity, messages of commiseration from friends of the country, friends of the former head of state, people who know him, even those who did not, but understood and appreciated what he stood for. Dr. Korede.
It's a testament to the character, the nature of the person Muhammadu Buhari. It's what we're looking at, the result of the kind of relationship he chose to have with people whilst alive. in public service. We heard earlier from the gentleman that worked with him, closely in the media, that Baba Buhari was a president that was unassuming, somebody that would like to be your friend. He gives you the first shot to just make you calm down, like you're discussing, you're coming to meet with a fellow human being, a friend of yours, a father figure. Don't think you're coming to meet with an eagle that has, a big fire on his head, as the case may be. So he has all this about him, yet not given away his integrous character that has built over the years and has made him. There's also a testament by a gentleman who fought alongside with him in the Civil War, a retired soldier who by fate happened to be my senior at my alma mater in secondary school, the Great Ibadan High School. Excuse me. He said to us, on the platform and then in writing, that at a time there was a change in government in the 70s. They were looking for who, will rightly become the next chief of army staff. Those who are the authorities, those who are in charge of that operation, suggested a Muhammadu Buhari to become the chief of army staff. His uprightness, because of his frugality, because of his integrity, because of his commitment and dedication to service. But along the line, they said, guy, if you make this man the chief of army staff, he may not listen to us if we're about to change things and all that. He will just stand straight. He was younger, so he will do that at the time. So he did not become the chief of army staff. They chose another person. A time came, another coup occurred, which he did not participate in. And they now had learned from the mistake they made earlier. They said they are now looking for somebody that now has integrity to become Nigeria's head of state, to lead, governance, which was, how he became the military head of state of Nigeria, based on his good character. So you can see a lot of people, not only in Daura. This incidents that we're seeing now is happening in various homes, millions of homes throughout Nigeria, throughout Africa, and worldwide. Amongst human beings on earth, leaders on earth, Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, stands amongst those that you can, have, that has a place in the history when it comes to being an officer, a gentleman, a man of integrity, a man that is frugal, a good public officer that delivers on his words, that stands by his words and ensures that he delivers. A good example, or a father figure, to those who believe in him, to men and women of goodwill. We are not unmindful of naysayers, but we know that we'll keep doing the right things. We'll keep talking about Muhammadu Buhari as the right thing. And we'll just pray that people will see him as, a figure whose character, whose antecedents to be studied, to guide. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at today.
All right. Very shortly, of course, we are expecting we'll get to the climax of today's activity very shortly as we continue to witness, of course, the movement of the VIPs and our international guests are there in Daura. I understand there was a slight delay because of the fact while we were expecting this to begin at 2 for our viewers. Of course, the remains arrived earlier, about 3 o'clock, just before 3 o'clock in the Umar Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina, and has since proceeded for minutes since we have seen the arrival of the presidential delegation already, and some of the VIPs we earlier saw at the airport. Now that this has happened, sometimes events help to shapen the course of history and help shapen the course of a nation. Dr. Kinshiju, you know much about the legacies in terms of the economics of Buharism, of the Buhari, tenure. Moving forward, are there things that we could pick up from his presidency for leaders of today and tomorrow in managing the affairs of the nation?
While it did not in clear political definitive terms, described his leanings, his socio-political, economic leanings. But of course, scholars would easily situate him, in the current Democrats. It would be, of course, a first-line appeal, to the mass of the people. And in his own case, I think there was a profound linkage to the people at the base of the pyramid, for which he advocated, throughout those 8 years, for which, for the first time in the history of Nigeria's political economy, he created an office that, of course, evolved to become the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. And of course, one also had the unfortunate resistance of that concept by the larger class of Nigerian elites who thought that the activities of that office of social intervention, when it was first created, couldn't have been impactful. It wasn't until some of us also amplified that advocacy to say that it was not just about Muhammadu Buhari. It's actually a concept developed by the World Bank, and that this concept fitted properly into the advocacy of the president at that time. Because for him, where virtually the higher cadre of the political class and the economic class, as it were, benefited from the little meager resources that get into the public space, the larger number of Nigerians, and he inherited about 85 million, Nigerians living under the poverty line in 2015. And I think we also need to put that into historical perspective, as at that time we had 85 million Nigerians living under $1, the global poverty benchmark at that time, under $1 a day. And so this was a huge inheritance for him. It was a huge legacy to manage. So when he started, of course, to implement those interventions, people who couldn't understand the context of that intervention, and of course the context of the person behind it, where of course, how do I call it now, were enraged, more or less, because I know I was involved in a number of social engagements with some of these otherwise highly knowledgeable Nigerians. But for him, it was an exercise that needed to be done and see to the end, because it was talking about taking Nigerians, millions of Nigerians out of poverty. And the first thing, the approach was first, let's stabilize these poor people. And that the economies of poverty is to state that these are potentials in redundancy. If you are able to create an economic agent or economic agency out of a human being that could not live sustainably, you are also adding to the capacity, the economic capacity, of the nation. So I think the burden of poverty is still a major challenge for the Nigerian state, and there is still a need, to have focused programs, focused policies to circle out large numbers, of people in the poverty circles in Nigeria. Now, of course, that argument was also furthered by the World Bank, who also now moved from the financial definition of the monetary definition of poverty to the multidimensional poverty, to say that more than 135 million Nigerians were living in multidimensional poverty. And of course, it became a political information, that was not exactly, how do I call it, tolerance, tolerating for the political class, because the opposition was easy, to reference that figure. But again, for the Buhari regime, don't forget that at that time there was a huge advocacy around increasing, also, of course, bring into reality the implementation of the millennial goals, most of the millennial goals during this time in office. So for me, I can see a linkage, anyway, from what the Buhari regime did with what the present government is doing. And I define my linkage as even from the base of the party itself. The party that God used late President Muhammadu Buhari and the current president, H.E. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to establish. For the first time in more than 30 years, we could reference a political party that we could define easily what ideological standing they belong to, So I think going forward, there's just a need to create a more symbiotic linkage with what the late president was doing in terms of circling more Nigerians. A lot of fiscal, fiscal rates, fiscal impacts at the macro level. We are seeing inflation rate is falling. Most likely, the benchmark MPR rate will fall by the time the next Monetary Policy Council meeting holds. We'll see some other, which will also translate to reduction in banking interest rates and all that. But everybody agrees that the millions of Nigerians that are the base of the pyramid are yet to feel it. To achieve that, it would have been a major accomplishment. And of course, it will be an accomplishment that can be worthy of the memory of late President Muhammadu Buhari.
Well, let's look at the policies very quickly, Dr. Korede. And a lot of people have said this, that you vote for parties, you don't vote for individuals per se, especially when you are looking at the legalese surrounding elections and all that. They say it's the party that is the platform, you vote for the party and all that. But in terms of Buhari, Buhari came to every election with his reputation. Whichever political party, be it CPC, AAPP, and eventually APC, he had his followership based on, a reputation he has built over time. And that resonates with me in terms of, being able to identify him with his particular character and what to expect from that character. Are we having that now in our polity? Especially, it's not a reputation built at the national level. It was rising through the ranks. Are we having that now? And are will Nigerians queue behind such characters now as we, continue in our democratic journey?
That brings to mind the principle of party supremacy. Yes, the parties are the ones being voted for in every election, the political parties. Officially by INEC, you vote for the party. Actually, you thumbprint for the party, not for the individual. But the party in itself, the owners of the party, the powers that be within the party, the management of the party, will look at personalities that has a history of good leadership, that has a good history of followership. Monies and then ask the executives to park to one side while they rule over the party. There is party supremacy in Nigeria, despite the fact that our individuals, those candidates, are the ones that would have gotten, a good history to ensure that when they become the candidate, they have the capacity to democratically win such elections for the party.
All right. Ms. Fessos, you listen to what Dr. Korede was saying just now. We saw a movement, in 2015, what everybody now calls a coalition, they called it a merger in 2015, in 2013, moving to 2014, and then eventually contest in 2015. AMPP, CPC, APC, and an element of APGA being a part of that contraption. Now that we have, this meeting of minds, and we're seeing some of them now, still coming up based on their, yes, it was a merger, but we still see elements of those parties, in terms of their outlook to governance. We had people in the CPC bloc in that government, people of the APC extraction, the government, AMPP, as well as APGA. What have we learned from that? Were they able to, under his supervision and during his presidency, were they able to fulfill their promises, or what Nigerians were looking for in 2015? Why that was such a popular platform?
Yes, like I said earlier, that when the president was elected, now late President Muhammadu Buhari, the expectation was high. People felt it, that if nothing is done, Nigeria was going to crash. Now, when he came, the body language, as far as Buhari was there at that time, from what we saw there, it was about Nigeria. But whenever they want to discuss things at the regional level, we will not be able to say, okay, Dr. Korede here.
Whatever contraption you want to call it, just staying there waiting to make sure that you score an own goal.
Well, good intentions alone do not curb corruption. You need to put structures in place. You need to, introduce technology. You need to you need to go to court, the court needs to, it's quite sad. So it's difficult if it's something that most people, citizens, staff of agencies, even staff of anti-corruption agencies, staffs in the judiciary, everybody is in the business, except you. And when he tried,
it's a business now.
It's a business. It's a way of life. Unfortunately, I remember when he tried to corrupt his domain and expect that, he would come up without having a clean, with having his image rubbish. They see it as, this is one of us, even within the anti-corruption agency, a head of the agency had to be removed, because of all of this. But then I also noticed something was happening. People that were close to Buhari, that knew that he didn't like corruption or anything associated with corruption, they latched on that and used it to also displace some of their enemies that were not necessarily corrupt. Because once you tell a Buhari that this person is corrupt, you have already spoiled his mood. And if it's somebody that he likes, the best he can do is to say, okay, let the person step aside, let him be investigated, especially if you bring some sort of concocted, evidence. It happened on 1 or 2 occasions during the last administration that I remember of. People try to use the fact that he doesn't like corruption to, fight. But it's a good thing to have a leader that is known for his stance against corruption. But beyond that, we need to put checks, balances in place. Under him, there was TS finance through the...
Starting with the will be expanded, student loan scheme that a lot of parents who can't afford to, train their children in university. 1 million, nano businesses being supported, looking for, how small, medium scale enterprises will be given single-digit loans, And at the larger scale, if you're a manufacturer, you have, excuse me, you own a factory that is verifiable, and you want to resuscitate your factory. Once they found out that you truly
coming into the compound of Vice President Kashim Shettima, who went all the way to London to, bring back the remains of the late former president, and now they've arrived at the venue of the event now in Daura. We just saw them coming in. So I understand that they are leaving the residence for the helipad where the prayers will be held by the Imam there of Daura. Will get there with the ambience and the commentaries shortly once our colleagues, are ready. Just before, we joined them, we're just talking about, concepts and making these policies work. So we've seen the governors receive much more than they were receiving. Now disbursement and making sure that people, perhaps some of the states are stuck in terms of the citizens feeling directly why the objective of...
Advocacy should be directed to the citizens of the states. You see, Mr. President and the current federal administration, as you rightly said, has given increased budgetary allocation to states and local governments. So people need to direct advocacy towards that. The federal government is doing what they could in terms of providing infrastructure, and they promised that we will go into actually ensuring that citizens benefit. But the president of Nigeria can only do the best by ensuring he allocates enough money to your governor. And it's the duty and responsibility of your governor and his cabinet to ensure that that translates into assisting the citizenry. After all, there cannot be a federal government without local government and states. Nigeria is made up of the 774 local governments and FCT and the states. Federal government is not, geographically Nigeria. The geographical expression of Nigeria are the 774 local governments are embedded in states, that is the states and the FCT. So, and we have governors who are educated, governors who are experienced, governors that are voted for by the people. So our advocacy should go to the people of each state to make demands of their excellencies, for them to bring to account what they are doing with these monies they are receiving from the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR every month.
All right, to understand the prayer is taking place, we'll take you to the arena.
ka gane in wa'ancan sarakunan suka fita rihe gulen za su yi da sauran sai su ba mutane can ba sa tafiya ne can a tsaye suke ka gane magana ne ka gano kamara ta ka ganta amma wani mutane sun san kansa yau ko kuna ina ai ni ne ba maki a ce wasu su cike wasu kuwa yau ya shiru ya shiru ai sallai ina gaya ma muna nan duka muna nan an samu cikin helifat amma kuma duka ba abin da wanda ya sa abin da ya gaya waje ta zo da aka da karfe 5 Allah ka ga maka yan jarida su kansu ba za su iya baka labari ni da ba ga muna wallahi ba abin da wannan zai baka ina gab da yanki wallahi wallahi ga kuma su kansu yanzu an ce wai a fita kuma sun rasa hanyar fita su kansu wallahi su kansu sun yi fita ba su yi organizing abin ba ya tuta muna nan mu ne ga muna mun sa halata Allah ai ba wannan bane wannan nan cikin da ake na cikin can ai na shigo ga nan ku ka shigo aka wannan shigo wannan assalamu alaikum
wallahi ina can amma ina tare da su ba a kan mic ne kan yasa Baba, sallan ne, za a fara. Sallan za a yi a can waje. Yanzu muka bi da kai ne kakar dama za mu tambaye ka. Kai kake ganin wanda bai ganuwa. Kai ke kallon kowa. Ba a yi ba. Yanzu dai za a ai baya gano
Allahu Akbar. An gama.
At the entrances of their various offices. Final respect from the nation he served for several decades, because he joined the military in 1962, so he has been serving the country for more than 6 decades. 1962 to 2025 is exactly 63 years. Now, the President, via morning
Vice President Kashim Shettima, the late President, and where he will be buried at his courtyard. We're seeing shots of his final resting place on your left there. That's where the remains
acquiring what you don't require. If you look at the final resting place of our former beloved president, Muhammadu Buhari, you see that it's just a small square inch soil for him, to rest eternally. This is also a lesson for everyone, really, whether you are in office, whether you're a big man, whether you are, just at your final resting place. Everything you've acquired, all the houses, all the vehicles.
Compound of the former president to give him a befitting farewell as the funeral burial rites are about to commence. Earlier we saw the governor of Borno State, Professor Umar Babagana Zulum, also getting into the compound there, and we are waiting the president as well, the immediate family are there as well, including state and now the compound. As you can see, that's the final resting place of former President Muhammadu Buhari,
the numbers of people we have impacted. It is how the extent to which we have developed, if we are empowered, develop our environment, that people would remind us about. Because the reality, and as we are seeing, is that life itself is not about, it's not in the assets we acquire. It is actually in the number of people that fondly remember us, And perhaps this has a way, I am not a prophet, I am not so religious, but I believe that this has a way of also following whoever departs this world into the other world that I also believe in, If you had impacted people very well, especially you represent the interest of people in your constituencies, in your local governments, in your country. You are the custodian of the aspirations, the needs of these millions of people, these multiple numbers of people. In what way have you been able to serve perhaps the most strongest, the highest, the climax, the peak of all responsibility? It's important that essentially we have the determination to serve, and indeed to serve in deed and in truth.
Who's first, Fifen?
Doc has said it all. There is a quote from my pastor in those days. Looking at that grave, I took note of the firewood. Did you see the piece of wood?
Yes.
There.
That's what we used to call it.
Yes, with all the glamour, with everything. I've been to that compound. I know how big the compound is. And if you look at the size of the grave, it's an inconsequential fraction of the whole of the compound. And this is a man, he died in London. He was flown here to Katsina. The question should now be, with all these our bragado, as it were, to what end? I'm a journalist. I've done that for a couple of years, and I can tell you how some people. Doc made a statement that, especially if you were made by the collective, that will now oversee a system where the children of the rich can no longer afford that same education or afford the basic necessities of. What you have done and that little grave where you will end. And for those of us that believe in the life hereafter, you also account to your Creator how for the dead anymore, because He is done with His own. It's for those of us that are still left, and nobody is going to leave this world alive. I remember a colleague that wrote part of the tribute he wrote for President Buhari. He said, "Oh, you have gotten there. The rest of us are on the way. We are coming." And somebody said, "Why would you write something like that?" He said, "For each day you wake up, you sleep, you wake up, you are getting closer to your grave, and that is the truth." So whatever privileged position you have, the power that you have, make a difference while you still can make that difference. I don't like this part. As a journalist, when you interview people that have occupied offices before, you see them talking about some of their regrets, some of the things they were supposed to do. Some of them will even be encouraging the incumbent. This is what you should have done. But we normally ask them, while you were there, why didn't you do it? If you know that this is right, you should have done it while we were there. But give and take is a lesson to every one of us. And we pray that this will also serve as a lesson. The highest position in Nigeria is the position he has occupied, not once but twice, and he was also a governor and some other positions that he had in this country. So if you can get to the position of a president of the Federal Republic, and at the end that is where you were buried, no matter who you are in this country, no matter the money you have made in this country, one day you will also go this way, and you'll be remembered by the legacies that you leave behind. So it's actually a sober time for every one of us. And we hope that those of us that are still breathing, it is left for us now to also use the time that we have left, so that when we also leave, people can say good things about us. It might not be in this setting where the world is saying one or two about the president, but in that your little corner, also make sure that you make your impact felt, and people also celebrate you.
Dr. Korede Martins.
Yeah, I'd like to say to my brother, not to worry, your appointment is on the way.
Thank you very much.
Well, the man Muhammadu Buhari, he came, he saw, he has conquered. He has left the stage for you, I, and us, collective. The stage is there for us to continue, act the roles, special grace of the Almighty, the hereafter, positivity, Al-Jannah shall be our portion.
All right, Doctor, let's look at, politically, 12 million, that returned in many of those elections. Is that movement still on, or is it just about the man?
Well, the movement to
So if we describe Buhari as a social democrat, we describe Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a social democrat. And we see a congruence of sorts in the policies they believe in the policy they have conceptualized on the different most important thing. And therefore, if Buhari's immediate objective was to, of course, elevate the economic standing of millions of people that found themselves in the poverty community activities, of a number of people who have an objective, to achieve. The merger of starting 2013 and crystallized in 2015 tells us a story of how people from different diverse political leanings could come together and under a single individual form a political direction that drives towards a principal, objective, and reference milestones that party So, to a large extent, I believe that the Nigerian political space is still deserving of the vision of Buhari, because you have that millions of people that desires leadership, you know, of the kind of class that Buhari was was ready to give. And I think in a large manner, and I'm not just being partisan here, I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has determined to also provide, or even, it's not even about provide. If we track back to President Tinubu's period in Lagos State, and we can reference what he did as governor, you know, it's easy for us, of course, to extrapolate and situate that at the federal level. And the type
outside broadcast vans from different media establishments also trying to get a vantage point to capture the moment. While we reflect on this, Doctor, this is just a day, but it is perhaps to reflect on the entire life of a man who has served the nation, in some cases made some controversial comments himself, and handled controversial situations, and, you know, but for one thing, he remained steadfast to his beliefs, and you know, in his own way for 8 years, tried to share once we get signals and then wrap up the funeral rites. We will also be left with our thoughts of him as the nation bids him farewell. But in terms of you know, public administration, which you are a part of, what are your takeaways from the life he lived and the farewell being given to him by Nigerians?
Well, my takeaway is that you need to just generally be a good person. You have to have principles, you have to have integrity, you have to live for something and die for something, and you have to have the understanding that there is a higher calling which everybody should strive to. Ultimately, as Muslims, we believe that we are here to, you know, worship our Lord, our Creator, and by so doing, any sphere of life that you find yourself, whether it's public service, whether it's you know, civil service, whether it's just business, your relationship with people and how you project that worship in terms of your relationship is also part of worship. But then let me intervene in the previous question that you asked about this 12 million votes, whether it's now
still intact or
yes,
there are splinters.
You know, first of all, God gives power, and General Muhammadu Buhari's consistent 12 million votes, you know, has been a product of hard work over the years. And for me, the way I see it, would have been happy as APC if he were alive in 2027 to come and also raise the hand of President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It would have made things easier. But for those that were relying on that to happen, as he did back in 2013, that
all right, let's very shortly we'll get pictures from the family compound and the final resting place. As you can see now, the body is very close now, so we are getting close to, you know, we are getting close now to getting to, you know, lay the remains of the president to rest in his compound. So we are getting close to it now, and very shortly, this would, you know, culminate. So I think there should be some prayers as well before that is done. Perhaps you can give us an idea of what to expect in the next few moments.
I mean, the main prayer has been done, which is Janaiza. Right now, they would, you know, fix the grave properly, set it in such a way that he can fit in the way that it's recommended in Islam, and he will now be buried. The grave will be covered. But then, before this is done or after it's done, you would have maybe the imam there or a preacher there that would just generally talk about life and death, and just a sermon, and that's about it. He will be buried and everybody will depart. And then other people that wish to, you know, give the final respects and just offer some prayers. This is the time to do it, although this is a continuous thing, but they would continue to do that.
Cook any of your customers' favorite meal.
No color changing like.
It's thick. A little is enough to get your desired quantity.
He worked very hard to this extent. He demonstrated commendable stamina during practical exercises and in advanced conditions. During his command and staff course in India, he was a sincere, hardworking officer who was quick to learn.
The Nigerian flag that was draped over him now are being folded by officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Looking at the process, of course, this is befitting for a former military, of course, a former general who was an asset to the Nigerian military, you know, throughout his active life.
It's very befitting indeed, and it just can't get better than this. Once a life of service in the military right from when he was 19 years old as a young commissioned officer. He served in various formations of the Nigerian Army, and to which credibility, you know, was the order of the day for him till he became the head of state of Nigeria. Left the military and then became chairman Petroleum Trust Fund and became back again to become Nigeria's democratically elected president twice. It cannot just get better. That Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, now late, stood for is what we as Nigerians need to stand for. If we're going to have this kind of honor and accolade, you know, in our last day on earth. Naysayers can say whatever, but you go ahead and achieve 1%. Now this is honor personified. It's a national honor given to somebody who came as an unassuming young lad and rose through the ranks. Today, he's been honored by his country. He's been honored by all the supporters. He's been honored by presidents. He's been honored by leaders. Are all here. This is
also as part of the ritual, and then is then covered. So that's how they are laying him now, as you can see.
All right, all ably assisted by Vice President Kashim Shettima, former governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, current governor of Katsina State, Governor Rada, and other dignitaries there. Of course, the former governor of Katsina State is also there. He was also his former speaker, talking about Raji Bello Masari, all at the gravesite now to give the former president befitting farewell. Son, one of his sons, right there, just near the gravesite, and this is quite humbling, you know, this final journey that you know, attests to, you know, the transience of human existence. And no matter how long you stay, it's still a journey compared to how much longer you will be in the hereafter, Doctor.
Yes, it's quite humbling, and we keep drawing lessons. We need to draw lessons.
You know, do a sermon to remind everybody of the importance of living well, because the inevitability of death, which is sure for everyone, and then just encourage everyone to go on about living honest lives with integrity, and of course I'm sure they would use the life of the president of the former president as an example. It's a moment that I think, you know, calls for very sober reflection, and the fact that most of our elites are there it's also an opportunity to remind them, to be of good behavior and serve the people well. Because at the end of the day, this is where we all end.
It seems as if there's a reluctance, Dr. Kishiju, from some of the associates of the president, at least younger associates of the president, to release him. But the man is on his final journey already with his makeup. I'm seeing Senator Ibikunle and Mosu there, also by the graveside, trying to assist while the remains of the former president was being lowered. And as you can see, the dignitaries there, including the chief imam, surrounding the gravesite. At this point, of course, maybe one or two comments will be made. Then, of course, it will be, a farewell for those who have also come to go back to their place. But seeing one of the sons being consoled there. Just behind as they put the soil in there. Yes. Doctor, you may want to come in here.
Yes, as you can see, they are trying to get the soil wet, and they are passing it around, just to place on the mat that was previously used to cover. And after that, that layer of wet soil, then they now do the final covering using normal soil. This process, you see a lot of people rushing to help. Everybody wants to be part of it because it's a very, very important part of the ritual of burying someone, and it is encouraged that every Muslim that can attend the janaiza prayer, which was the prayer you saw earlier, and also attend the burial, has a lot of reward. It comes with a lot of reward from our Creator. So that is why you see everybody's trying to be a part of it.
Is there any protocol involved in terms of those who can actually put the soil?
Well, we usually have experts that are there to help guide, but everybody that is close, that is around, can contribute, and it's not for specific people, to do. Of course, you see, most people there are men, and I think it has something to do with the religion. It's mostly men that bury, the dead, so they are the ones that can, put the soil and support in the final burial rites.
We're looking at live shots of the final moments, of course, as the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Doctor, seems as if the top layer you were talking about has been concluded, and now...
Yes, so the final... important, and you get a lot of reward for doing this. Not just because he's the former president. For any Muslim at all, any burial, you are able to attend, to give the last respects and help to facilitate the process of burial. It's considered rewarding, so... And as you can see, the military men are actually, they've cordoned off the place. So you can imagine how many people would have wanted to. Of course, we don't want a situation of stampede. So it's important to just cordon off and allow a few people to do it.
In this case, those doing this do not need to be
had gone into this final journey for the late president. I think it's been a while indeed that Nigerians experienced this kind of state burial, you know. So I think we should give credit to the incumbent administration for putting this together with in a very short period, you know. And I'm very sure this is the first time we are actually burying a president and a military ruler at the same time. I can see the timing, you know, that goes into this, despite the fact that the remains are to be brought in from outside the Nigerian jurisdiction. We see there's a lot of compactness.
This is the parent of the dwelling for the parent party. The parent party commander is taking charge.
After the parade, we shall also hear the weather.
And glory, you know, because that is the end of man. For those of us who believe in life after life, that what we do in this life will lead us on to higher life, you know, in our next life.
Festus Swifen. Yes, thank you very much. As a strategic and development communication expert, I would say that the government of the day should invest more in communication and making sure that the right narratives are passed out there. Since morning, we have been monitoring how the president landed, all the processes, and the humbling part was how he was buried. I can tell you for free that in the weeks to come, even when some of us believe that it will be temporary,
you will see a change in behavior, we see a change in orientation and some of the things. And this is what communication is all about. We have seen it from up there. It has been buried, and that is a message to the rest of us that are waiting, that you either be remembered for the problems you solved or the ones that you